Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. Great Voyage. I, the strongest fighter on the Rocks ship. Chapter 41. A broken desert island. While Yulo was slightly distracted, Golden Lion Shiki swings Sakura Ju and Deadwood again. Whoosh. Two more black sword energies shot out. While Yulo's thoughts were running, observation Haki kept paying attention to Shiki. He quickly waved the black sword and slashed out 4 sword energy in succession. But even the 4 sword auras only offset 1 black sword aura. Another black sword energy came flying forward as usual. Shave. Yulo chose to dodge, and in the lightning flash, he activated the 6 types of physical skills. He disappeared instantly, and the black sword energy whizzed past. Following the ravine on the sea, it disappeared from sight. Yulo, who kept using the 6 forms, quickly approached Shiki. His speed is very fast, but Shiki's observation Haki can also detect Yulo's position. Shiki also activates the lion fruit ability and moves close to the ground. The waving Sakura 10 and the Deadwood emitted black light, like a group of demons dancing wildly. Countless flashes of sword energy burst towards Yulo's position. Jia ha ha ha, boy Yulo, how do you feel? Shiki looked at Yulo, who had been dodging, and laughed proudly. Did you see that I, Shiki, am not bad at all? Just wait and be my vice captain. Shiki, I didn't say that, that's all. Shiki's proud look made Yulo couldn't help but challenge him. I really thought that if I showed my arms and sex, I wouldn't be able to do anything to you Shiki. Even though Shiki's defense and attack power have increased a lot. If Yulo wants to deal with it calmly, there are definitely ways. I just wanted to test how far Shiki's armament was exposed. What's more, releasing armament Haki with such full force consumes a lot of physical strength and Haki. I don't know how long I can hold on, but I started to scream here. G-Dragon hunting. As soon as he finished speaking, Yulo ignored the countless sword energy attacks. He jumped into the air and struck hard with the black knife in his hand. The sharp sword energy burst out and turned into a ferocious black dragon, roaring and biting Shiki below. The black dragon's momentum was like breaking bamboo, and several black sword energies were crushed directly on the way. This move is indeed good, but it's a pity that it's still a bit unsightly. Shiki said slightly solemnly, bending his calves, stamping his feet hard, and disappeared from the place. This move was not as good as his black Haki slash, but he was not prepared to withstand it. Shiki knew in his heart that he couldn't last long in this state. The top priority is to defeat Yulo as quickly as possible. Yulo in midair was preparing to dodge the overwhelming black Haki slashes. Suddenly, it was discovered that Shiki's figure was missing. You didn't choose to bear it. Yulo was a little surprised. This was not in line with Shiki's style. The very next moment, his observation Haki captured. Shiki is approaching him quickly. In an instant, Yulo appeared above him. Jia ha ha ha, eat me twice. With a sinister smile on his face, Shiki struck Yulo on the head with the Sakura 10 and Deadwood in his hand. Fortunately, Yulo had already noticed it and responded quickly. The black sword is held horizontally above the head, and the blade is covered by armament Haki. Boom, boom, Shiki's weapon color is exposed, bursting out with huge impact. It knocked Yulo down and hit the ground. The already broken land exploded again, sinking severely. The impact created a cloud of sand and dust, obscuring Yulo's figure. Shiki's attack made some of the pirates who supported him cheer. Well done, Shiki-sama. Let me tell you, Shiki-sama is not bad. Master Yulo is still too young. These people felt unconvinced about Shiki's injury just now. Now when they see Yulo being shot down, they all clamor to clear Shiki's name. Just then, the dust dispersed. Yulo was revealed, covered in a jet black armament Haki. He wasn't injured, he was simply knocked down. Of course there were no injuries, thanks to armament Haki. Look, Master Yulo is okay. What's wrong with being young? Being young doesn't hurt. As expected of Master Yulo. The pirates who supported Yulo saw this and immediately fought back. The pirates who supported Shiki gritted their teeth every word. Rocks, Newgate and others watched quietly. Yulo always brings surprises to people. No one knows if he is still hiding. Therefore, no one speaks nonsense about Yulo's strength. This weapon color is really good. It seems that you have completely mastered it. Yulo looked at Shiki floating in midair and said calmly. From the series of offensives just now, he understood what he wanted to know. Exposing the weapon color is a kind of application technique, which requires subtle and skillful control of Haki. Although it can be turned into substantial attack and defense. However, there is a prerequisite restriction. That is, the intensity of armament Haki will not change. It cannot hit an attack that exceeds its own Haki strength. It is also unable to defend against attacks that exceed its own Haki strength. Since Yulo can break open Shiki Haki's hardening and winding, then add an external release, and you can still break it open. It just doubled the difficulty, and only revealed one more swordsmanship move. Jia ha ha ha, of course. Why, boy Yulo, if you want to learn. Shiki felt that Yulo's words were acknowledging himself. He immediately thought of using this to seduce Yulo. Shiki, you are thinking too much. I was thinking about how to defeat you. Before Shiki finished speaking, he was interrupted by Yulo's voice. Could it be that you have a special trick? He was not angry, but was slightly stunned. Immediately, my mind moved, and I started to look forward to it. Yulo never lacks surprises. There are seemingly endless moves in the battle, which will dazzle you. That divine speed sword drawing technique broke through his armor. Thinking about it now, I still feel scared. This move is my strongest swordsmanship at present. Once I use it, I can't stop it. Shiki, be prepared, this is my first time to use it too. Whether you survive or not depends on you. Yulo's eyes were deep, his expression was indifferent, and his aura was surging. While he was practicing the swordsmanship in encyclopedia, he also often studied on his own. In a short period of time, although he did not create any moves of his own. However, he mastered one sword move thoroughly and then integrated what he had learned. A comprehensive move that focuses on swordsmanship and fire, supplemented by physical skills and Haki has been modified. This move requires exquisite cooperation among the four. Its attack range, speed, and power are several times stronger than the divine speed and sword drawing technique. The only drawback is that it takes a lot of energy. After all, it is a comprehensive skill released together with swordsmanship, fire, taijutsu and Haki. Yulo acted very seriously and spoke in a solemn tone. Shiki's pupils shrank when he heard this, and he couldn't help but become nervous. Shiki has no doubts about Yulo's strongest move. At this point in the battle, no one would make such a joke. Jia ha ha ha, boy Yulo, I'm honored. In that case, let's decide the outcome with one move. Shiki's muscles all over his body tensed up, and Sakura-ten and Kusaki's grip tightened. He took a deep breath and armament Haki exploded with all his strength. Various abilities are always ready, and the momentum has been upgraded to ultimate. Yulo stood there holding the black knife. Boom. Suddenly, the fire in Qinglian's heart burned, and flames rose up all over her body. Yulo's calf suddenly exerted force, and the ground where it was located exploded. The land was sunken, Yulo stood motionless, and cracks spread in all directions. The raging Qinglian earth core fire erupted from Yulo's feet and bombarded the ground. Suddenly, the sky shook and the desert island began to tremble. Qinglian's inner core fire continued to destroy deeply, causing the cracks to expand rapidly and spread throughout the desert island. At this time, wisps of green fire escaped from the cracks. Click, click, click. In an instant, the dilapidated desert island became disintegrated and fragmented. Look, the entire island is shattered. This desert island is probably going to sink. The desert island has been destroyed, and the winner has not yet been determined. After experiencing many shocks, the pirates in the distance have become accustomed to it. Looking at the scene of the desert island collapsing, he said with emotion one after another. Just when everyone thought the desert island was about to sink, the surrounding seawater suddenly boiled, and a large amount of steam floated up. Countless fish kept jumping out of the water, scrambling to escape here. What's going on? It's so hot. The seawater is already boiling. The heat steamed up and hit Tianlinggai directly from under the feet. It makes all the pirates feel like they are in a steamer. Look, suddenly, someone exclaimed. In the seawater around the desert island, a huge cyan shadow broke through the waves. Huge waves were set off, and the sea suddenly surged. The pirate ships moored around were all picked up by the huge waves and pushed back 100 meters. The broken desert island that was supposed to sink into the sea was now held up by a huge green lotus. 36 lotus leaves slowly closed together, enveloping the entire ruins of the desert island. This is too spectacular. The pirates were dumbfounded and stammered. This fruit's ability is truly terrifying. Silver Axe looked serious and said in a deep voice. Gee, it must be well developed by Yulo. Newgate laughed, and even he was a little shocked. Qingwo can directly seal off a small island, and its ability to develop is quite terrifying. Inside Qinglian, there are rugged rocks. Seeing this battle, Shiki felt a little confused. Even when he unleashes armament hockey with all his strength, you can also feel a suffocating temperature. This Yulo boy doesn't really intend to kill himself. Shiki looked at Yulo with a calm expression in horror. The terrifying sense of oppression made him take 2 steps back subconsciously. But then, he lowered his head in disbelief and glanced at his legs. Just a second ago, he actually felt a hint of fear. I think Yulo came here to prevent me from escaping. Shiki smiled bitterly and shook his head mockingly. Whether it is an instinctive reaction or a psychological effect, he must not sit still and wait for death. Shiki's eyes became determined and he immediately launched an attack stance. A large number of gravel and soil scattered around him rose into the air and gathered together. Dozens of majestic giant lions quickly formed. These lions are densely packed and guard Golden Lion Shiki. Yulo looked at this scene and suddenly raised the corner of his mouth. The great swordsman's sharp sword soared into the sky, and the black knife in his hand buzzed violently, and there was a resonance between the two. The jet-black blade is hardened and entangled with armament, the sword energy condenses crazily, and the green lotus earth core fire adheres to it. The 4 overlapped each other, and their power surged, becoming more powerful than ever before. Take the move. Yulo's body trembled and his voice fell. The razor of the 6 styles was exploded with all its strength, and the figure disappeared in an instant. So fast. Shiki, who was concentrating in the distance, had hairs all over his body and his pupils shrank sharply. In an instant, he was all fired up to capture Yulo's figure. It's the same razor, but this time it's different from before. There were still traces of Yulo's razor before, and the figure would draw a trajectory in the air. But this time, his speed was as fast as ultimate, and his control of the airflow was meticulous, leaving no trace at all. Shiki fully realized Yulo's movements. Go! Shiki shouted and waved the Sakura Juku in his hand. Ho! Roar! Roar! Dozens of giant lions roared and pounced on the fast-moving Yulo. With these lions, of course there is no way to stop Yulo. Yulo smashed all the lions into pieces just by using the airflow generated by friction with the air. Of course Shiki understands this is just a way to kill Yulo. Lion, Thousand Slice Valley. The next moment, he drew his sword, his arms dancing like a group of demons. Countless black sword energies covered the sky and blocked the sun, instantly blocking Yulo's trajectory. Ha 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 ha, Shiki, welcome my killing move. Qinglian sword song. Looking at Shiki close at hand, Yulo laughed. The whole person turned into a blue sword light, and the sword drawing technique appeared at a very fast speed. The dense black sword energy was directly penetrated by Yulo's blow. It shoots towards Shiki with a powerful blast. Display your armed colors. Shiki's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly used the external release technique to build an invisible defensive wall around his body. A clang. The green sword light passed through, and a crisp collision sounded. Shiki couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when he saw that the defensive wall was only slightly shaken. However, the next moment, he was greeted by an increasingly sharp sword light. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of Jinjie was endless, and the green sword light continued to pass through Shiki. The speed is getting faster, the power is getting stronger, and the sword energy is getting sharper. Ah! Shiki roared and unleashed all his defenses. He didn't expect that what he just did was just the first sword. Shiki now can only do passive defense. Facing the cyan sword light, he could take 2 or 3 moves. But now, it's so fast that Shiki can't react. He was afraid that he would be stabbed by the next cyan sword light as soon as he received 2 or 3 swords. Damn it! Shiki stood there with a gloomy face. He discovered that Armament Hockey's external defense wall was on the verge of collapse. And that cyan sword light became faster and faster, more ruthless and accurate. Crack, click, click. Finally, 18 rays of sword light flashed through, and the defensive wall shattered. What kind of swordsmanship is this? Shiki's expression suddenly changed, and he secretly said something bad. The combined power of these 18 sword lights, beyond the limits of what his armament haki could defend. Now his weapon was released, but the green sword light continued. Shiki made a move and was about to rearm and release his color. The 19th ray of sword light struck, and it cut across his arm with a clang. How could Yulo let Shiki use his weapon color again? Hiss! Shiki groaned in pain, and his movement was interrupted by sword light. The weapon was hardened and entangled, and it was cut directly, and a scar appeared on the arm. Dang! 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 The cyan sword light slashed one after another, giving Shiki no chance to react. In an instant, several sword marks appeared on his body. This is about to determine the winner. Alas, Shiki-sama is going to lose. Master Yulo is too pervert. The people watching the battle on the sea were so shocked that their expressions changed drastically. They all expressed their exclamations and emotions. Yulo was nowhere to be seen in their sights. All that could be seen clearly was countless green sword lights passing by. Shiki became covered in bruises in the blink of an eye. What kind of move was it that left Master Shiki defenseless? The deserted island in the distance was wrapped in green lotus, but the sharp sword intent was coming towards him. Even though they were far apart, it still made their scalps tingle and the hairs on their bodies stand up in fear. The green sword light instantly slashed 36 swords, and Yulo's figure appeared in the air. Shiki gasped for air, scars all over his body. The ticking sounds overlapped, and blood continued to fall. Every wound is comparable to the scars on the chest caused by the sword-drawing technique. These dozen wounds were not deep, and they only had some impact on Shiki. The key thing is that the amount of bleeding is terrible, coupled with the long-term full release of the armed color. This caused Shiki's physical strength to decrease rapidly. Shiki, the last sword. Yulo in the air looked stern and his voice was extremely calm. Holding the black knife tightly in both hands, he raised it high. The next moment, the huge green lotus suddenly bloomed, and 36 lotus leaves burst into flames. It turned into streams of green flowing fire and gathered on the black blade. The hardening and entanglement of armament haki, coupled with the lingering of Qinglian's inner fire. The black knife exudes shocking murderous intent. The air nearby screamed, as if it had encountered something terrible. Shiki couldn't help but take a step back, looking at the black knife in horror. The energy emanating from it made him flinch. It feels like my soul is trembling. It's nonsense, it's really nonsense. Rock's face darkened. He felt a strong murderous intention from Yulo's black knife. It was just a duel, how could it turn into a battle of life and death? If Yulo were to kill him with this knife, he would be able to kill him. In Shiki's current state, even if he doesn't die, he will still be seriously injured. If this is the case, it will seriously affect his plan. Shiki is an indispensable member of Marine's next revenge operation. Even if all the ordinary crew members died, something would definitely happen to Shiki. What's more, Shiki is Rock's pirates' top combat force. Rock's ultimate goal is to overthrow the world government. What we need most is people like Shiki. If something happens to Shiki, his chances of winning will inevitably decrease. Rox won't let that happen. It seems that he has to take action after all. Rox stared at Yulo solemnly. This Yulo is truly a monster. Even Rox senses a hint of threat from the black knife. Let me end this fight. Rox took a step forward, disappeared from the bow of the ship, and rushed straight to the desert island. Even Newgate's expression changed drastically. He didn't expect it to develop like this. Seeing Rox rushing out, he hurriedly followed him. Yulo held the green fire and black sword high, exuding an aura that would destroy the world. At this moment, his face was also slightly pale, and his steady breathing became heavy. The previous huge green lotus and 36-path swordlight were combined with this terrifying sword. Yulo's condition is almost the same as Shiki's, and his physical exertion is approaching the limit. If this sword cannot defeat Shiki, it will only end in a draw. But Yulo firmly believes that everything will disappear with this knife. Jia ha ha ha. The wild laughter sounded. Shiki was ready to fight to the death. Countless huge lions condensed again, and the Sakura 10 and dead wood arms were hardened and entangled, except that their bodies were not covered with armament haki. He doesn't have much stamina left, and if he is covered with hockey, the power of the attack will be weakened. The next moment, the two of them took action at the same time. Yulo's black sword slashed down, drawing a blue sword energy across the sky. Shiki slashed out two cross-shaped black sword energy and soared into the sky, followed by the roaring lion. At this time, the space between heaven and earth and above the sea seemed to have solidified. In the eyes of everyone, Yulo and Shiki seemed to disappear. All that's left are two ultimate pure attacks. The cyan sword energy collided with the black sword energy. In an instant, it was destroyed. Shiki looked at this scene, feeling a little decadent. He probably knew the power of this sword. Those lions alone cannot resist it, and they will probably dissipate in an instant. Besides, with his current physical strength and the speed he could react, he couldn't dodge this green sword energy. At this time, a lightning-like figure passed by. A man with an afro appeared in front of the green sword energy. The aura it exudes is like an endless abyss. It swallowed up all the auras and filled the entire battlefield. Rock's hands covered armament hockey and pushed forward slightly. Suddenly, the green sword energy stopped, as if there was an invisible wall in front of it. The cyan sword energy was blocked by Rock's armed color, but it still broke through crazily. Rox narrowed his eyes slightly and shook his hands hard. An invisible impact force exploded, sending the green sword energy flying out. Immediately afterwards, another burly figure appeared behind Rox in an instant. The fist was wrapped in a white air ball, and he smashed it into the air in front of him. Click, click, the air cracked and the power of vibration exploded. Countless lions were blown apart by the shock. A large number of land fragments fell, and 4 people stood on floating objects on the sea. You two guys are really crazy. Rox glanced at the two of them with a relaxed expression and said in a low tone. Captain Rox. Yulo looked at Rox inexplicably and then reacted. Rox took action at this time, making it clear that he didn't want anything to happen to Shiki. Come to think of it, Rox treats ordinary crew members as cannon fodder. Only these cadres can get his attention. Yulo's eyes narrowed, secretly surprised. He was able to take the sword easily. Rox's strength exceeded his expectations. How come? Shiki looked at Rox in horror and muttered to himself. His weapons were hardened, entangled, and released, all of which were broken by Yulo's ultimate move. Rox, on the other hand, can easily block or even bounce away by just relying on his outward release. How powerful is this? Even Newgate, who came together, had shock in his eyes. This was a little different from what he thought. It was too easy. It was so easy that it seemed like a casual blow, and it seemed like nothing happened. Ha. 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 After severe mood swings, a feeling of exhaustion and weakness attacks. Yulo suddenly knelt on one knee, supported his body with a black knife, and gasped for air. Shiki was even more serious. He was bleeding a lot, making him dizzy and almost fainted. Fortunately, Newgate had quick eyesight and stepped forward to help Shiki. Shiki noticed Newgate's aura and gritted his teeth. Then he forcibly raised his spirits and shook off Newgate's hand. La, Shiki, you guys really want to save face and suffer the consequences. Newgate didn't force himself upon seeing this, he just laughed and said something insulting. Snort. Shiki snorted coldly, managed to steady himself, and began to regain his strength. On the other side, Yulo slowly stood up. What a terrifying talent and strength. It won't take more than a few years to catch up with me. Rox looked at Yulo in front of him with satisfaction. A young man with a terrifying talent that could be called a monster. Even his talent is not as good as Yulo's. Rox is a little lucky, Yulo is a pirate. If it were from the marine camp, it would probably cause him a lot of trouble. Even now, he can still feel the faint pain in his hands behind his back. After hearing Rox's words, before Yulo could speak, Shiki's voice came over. Captain Rox is right, you have surpassed me now. Boy Yulo, I lost this battle. Shiki walked over slowly, with a disappointed expression on his face, and said with emotion. After all, he really wanted Yulo to be his first officer. But now it seems that the dream has come to nothing. However, he was convinced of Yulo's strength and had no complaints. But for Rox and Newgate who broke in at the last moment. He may be lying down now rather than standing. Shiki, you're not bad at all, you actually mastered the weapon color release. Yulo looked at Shiki's disappointed expression and mentioned Shiki's progress aloud. Sure enough, when Newgate heard it, he immediately burst out laughing. Gee la la la, Shiki, I didn't expect that. You actually mastered the weaponry so quickly. While Newgate spoke, he patted Shiki on the shoulder. This shot was so good that it almost made Shiki kneel down. Newgate, lousy is no worse than you. Shiki was so angry that he gritted his teeth, and his eyes wanted to blow Newgate's head off. When Newgate heard this, he pretended not to hear and said nothing. Mainly because Shiki looked miserable, and he really couldn't bear to hit Shiki anymore. Okay, Yulo has a good rest, and Shiki recovers from his injuries as soon as possible. Retaliation against Marine will begin in 2 months. Rox stared at Shiki, then glanced at everyone, and said in a deep voice. As soon as these words came out, Yulo, Shiki, and Newgate couldn't help but become serious. What about the mole? Newgate looked at Rox and suddenly asked. Even Yulo and Shiki pricked up their ears. Originally, if Rox didn't mention some things, they wouldn't ask. But now, Rox takes the initiative and it becomes natural for them to ask. Don't worry about that, everything is under my control. Rox stared at the sea and left first after speaking. The three of them looked at each other and followed each other one after another. Rox did not hold a cadre meeting, but instead took the opportunity to tell the 3 people alone. It was obvious that they believed the 3 of them, and the mole was not among them. It also prepares them for future actions. Yulo's mind was spinning. Judging from the current situation, the friction between Rock's pirate and naval headquarters was frequent and intense. I think it's not far from the Battle of the Valley of Gods in the anime. Before that, let alone surpass Rox, at least have the strength to rival Rox. As for the marine mole, he didn't care at all. At that time, it will just be a matter of Qinglian's sword song. All the pirates who were watching the battle returned to Beehive Island one after another. Rumors spread throughout the island about this battle between Yulo and Shiki. It was just a fight that destroyed an island. Now in that sea area, this desert island has disappeared. The battle was seared in their memories. John, Akoku, Silver Axe, Kaido, Linlin, etc., have nothing to say about it. They all saw Yulo's strength with the divine speed and sword-drawing technique in the Qinglian sword song. Especially Akoku and Kaido, they feel deeply powerless every time they see Yulo on the island. The client, Yulo, fell asleep after returning. It wasn't until the next morning that I woke up feeling physically and mentally comfortable. Ding! The mission was successfully checked in. Congratulations to host for receiving the mission reward, Advanced Armament Hockey. Armament Hockey is released. The task reward has been automatically given to the host. As soon as Yulo opened his eyes, he heard the system prompt. Immediately, I felt that the quantity and intensity of armament hockey in my body had been greatly improved. The technique of using the weapon's color outwardly is like muscle memory integrated into the body. The problem that had puzzled him before was now solved. Yulo couldn't help but laugh. The system sent him a surprise as soon as he woke up. Let him directly catch up with Golden Lion Shiki in terms of armament hockey. If we fight again, Yulo will win much more easily. Suddenly, Yulo thought that he had not clocked in yet. System, check in daily. Ding, I successfully clocked in today. Congratulations to host for getting Advanced Observation Hockey. Oh, let me go. The system really gave Yulo a big surprise. There was just a high-level weapon color, and now there is a high-level knowledge color. Coupled with the premium Conqueror's Hockey all reaches premium. Yulo released Observation Hockey, directly covering the entire Hive Island. The information that can be perceived has also become more detailed. At this time, Yulo sensed Rox appearing at the door. Your hockey broke through. Rox pushed open the door and asked curiously. He felt it outside. A powerful observation hockey came from Yulo's room. Yes, the color of knowledge has reached a high level. Yulo got off the bed, nodded and said. Since Rox asked this, he must have noticed it and there is nothing to hide. Hey, so you were just at the intermediate level before. Rox looked at Yulo in surprise, a little in disbelief. He had paid attention to Yulo's previous battles. At that time, Yulo's knowledge and experience were already comparable to those of a high-level person. Yes, but in battle, it is used in combination with the fire eyes. Yulo saw what Rox was thinking and explained aloud. When he first gained the insight color, he discovered that it was similar to Huoshaotong. When both are used at the same time, seeing and hearing can be enhanced. I see. Rox suddenly understood. Then Rox thought for a moment, held Yulo's shoulders, and said, "In the next period of time, I will arrange a secret mission for you. Since the battle, everyone has been talking about it and there is no intention to train or work." Rox even noticed that after Akoku and Kaido came back, they drank for a day and a night. He thought it would be better to take control of Yulo for the time being. It just so happens that he has a task at hand, which involves his plan to take revenge on Marine. Secret mission. But I don't have a crew. Yulo was stunned for a moment, looking a little stunned. Assign him a mission, and he has no crew, so he is a loner. This mission does not require a crew, it is enough to act alone. I originally planned to let Shiki go, but now he is injured and has to rest for a few days. Newgate was unsuitable and his figure was too conspicuous. I asked him to train the crew on the island. Rock's voice was slightly mysterious and he explained several things to Yulo. Then he looked at Yulo, who was getting serious, and suddenly gave himself a thumbs up. I'm such a clever little kid. What mission? Yulo stared and asked in a deep voice. He suddenly remembered what Rox said yesterday. Coupled with what I just said, this is already very obvious. Rox only mentioned him, Shiki, and Newgate. It's clearly related to the plan to take revenge on Marine. Therefore, the person who performs the task can only choose from 3 people. Shiki and Newgate couldn't go, so he must have gone. Hey, it's about celestial dragons. Rox smiled and told some exciting news. Yulo's heart trembled, and he suddenly smiled vaguely. Celestial dragons. Interesting. In Rock's Pirate, the cruise races span the sea. He has seen all kinds of humanoids. Only the celestial dragons have not been seen. The so-called world aristocrats, based on the information I got. After we snatched 2 celestial dragons, the celestial dragons were furious. The 5 elders ordered Marine to serve his crime and not to let the celestial dragons' nobles hold Marine accountable. The incompetent and angry celestial dragons pointed their swords at the 2 alliance countries that paid tribute to the heavenly gold. They will send representatives to the participating countries in the near future. Although they are protected by dedicated personnel, their strength is far from yours. Your task is to kill them. At the same time, it can divert the attention of Marine and the Mole. Marine scouts have been around the periphery of our territory in the past few days. Rox said with a ferocious smile on his face. Yulo was about to speak when suddenly the system voice appeared. Ding. Trigger mission check-in. Please host go to the participating countries and kill the evil celestial dragons. The task is successfully checked in, and the system will issue rewards. Yulo was overjoyed. The system understood me best. And he found that the system was becoming more and more user-friendly. He can always trigger check-ins or issue rewards based on what he wants or needs. Okay, no problem, I'll leave in the evening. Yulo took over the task neatly. He had long been tired of staying on Beehive Island. Just went for a walk outside and killed a few celestial dragons. By the way, if you need crew members, you can select them from the country. There are still many people living in those countries who have potential. Rox thought that Yulo had no crew and reminded him casually. Yulo nodded, not taking it too seriously. Rox was right, but he wasn't right. People who live in the country generally do not go to sea to become pirates. Not to mention the feared Rox pirate. Unless you are the kind of person who is cornered and in a difficult situation. Then get ready. After Rox finished speaking, he stood up and left. Yulo watched Rox go and didn't return to the room until he was far away. Rox is really powerful, and Yulo's advanced knowledge covers the entire island. But when Rox came to the door, Yulo noticed his breath. Judging from this, Rox's knowledge and appearance are probably the best among the best. But don't worry, it's only a matter of time before you surpass Rox. Yulo then left the room and headed to Golden Lion Shiki's ship. As soon as I got on the boat, countless eyes looked at me. Master Yulo, you are here. Master Yulo, have you eaten? Master Yulo, would you like a drink? It was lunchtime, and everyone was greeting and asking for help. Yulo waved back and declined with a smile. He came to Shiki's room and opened the door directly. The smell of barbecue and fine wine hit my face. Shiki's upper body is wrapped in bandages, and bloodline can be faintly seen. At this time, he was sitting on the bed, eating meat and drinking wine. The way he wolfed down his food didn't look like an injured person at all. Shiki, you're recovering well. I enjoy seeing you like this. Yulo said with a smile, picked up a bottle of wine and drank it. Gia ha ha ha, it's boy Yulo. This little injury will heal in just a few days. Shiki was stunned, swallowed the meat in his mouth, looked at Yulo and laughed. There was no alert on his ship, so he thought it was the crew coming to deliver wine and food. Yulo didn't feel surprised when he saw Shiki in full swing. People in the pirate world are so urinary, their body's ability to absorb and recover is amazing. What's more, for a strong person like Shiki, the so-called return of life is not a problem. After only 1 day and 1 night, I was able to jump happily. By the way, where's Newgate? Yulo asked, but there was no sign of Newgate outside. Captain Rox sent him away. Shiki answered vaguely. Sure enough, Yulo heard this and thought to himself. I think it's time to inform Newgate about training the crew. Well, after fighting with me, will you gain anything? After coming back yesterday, I feel like my conquerors are more flexible. It probably won't take long to master Conqueror's entanglement. Shiki said proudly after eating and drinking. There was no trace of yesterday's disappointment on his face. Shiki has no emotions for Yulo. The top strong man on the sea still has this kind of magnanimity. Really? That's good. Yulo was a little surprised, he didn't expect it after the first battle. Shiki stepped half-foot into the Conqueror's entwined threshold. This is a more difficult skill than exposing the weapon's color. Compared with the difficulty of armed color coil, it is simply a younger brother. But it's just a way out, nothing more. I don't seem to have made much progress. The corners of Yulo's mouth curled up slightly, thinking of a good idea. With a flick of his right hand, the wine bottle on the table exploded. Gia ha ha ha, boy Yulo, this is nothing. Shiki became more and more proud and laughed. Immediately, the voice stopped suddenly and the expression on his face froze. This is, the armed color is exposed. Quote, finally reacting, Shiki's expression changed dramatically. The proud smile disappeared, replaced by a look of shock. Dumbfounded, jaw-dropping, cannot be overstated. I'm just wondering. I'll know it as soon as I wake up. It turns out that this is the display of armed sex. Yulo seemed to be possessed by the actor, pretending to be surprised and mumbling. Shiki regained his composure, and the corner of his mouth twitched violently as he listened to Yulo's words of wanting to be beaten. He looked at Yulo with resentful eyes, gritted his teeth but was helpless. This Yulo is so good at acting that he doesn't believe it. Yulo doesn't know that this is showing off his weapons. Suddenly, Shiki couldn't help but stretch his fingers. At that moment, he really wanted to slap himself twice. What the hell, you were so loud, now you are being slapped hard in the face. I originally wanted to teach Yulo the technique of displaying his armed colors. Okay, wow, I'm just being sentimental. HMPH, you came to me to ask me to board your ship. Shiki snorted and called for more wine and meat. After all, he lost the duel, and he would agree to Yulo's request. No, you're overthinking it. I'm not interested in you. You have your own way to go, and so do I. Yulo suppressed his laughter, became serious, and spoke. He had never had the idea that people like Shiki would be restrained by following him. Only like in the anime, Shiki can shine. Didn't Shiki come up with the title, Flying Admiral, by himself? Is this so? Shiki was slightly surprised that Yulo was not interested in him. He is a little behind Yulo, but his future achievements will never be lower. I really don't know what Yulo boy is thinking. But this is better, being inferior to others is not his style. Okay, I'm leaving first. Yulo looked at the time, turned and left. We have to prepare the eternity pointer later. This is the disadvantage of not having a crew. Everything you do must be done by yourself. Get the eternity pointer from Rox, and a bunch of stuff. Yulo is all put into the system inventory. Stayed until evening, said hello to Rox, Newgate, Shiki, and set off. Yulo came to the beach alone, and there was no boat on the sea. This is why Newgate is unsuitable for this mission. Acting alone does not require a boat. After all, it is too troublesome to sail a boat alone. Newgate is powerful, but not flexible enough to fly for long periods of time. Therefore, we can only choose Yulo, who is in good physical condition compared to Shiki. Yulo took out the needle of eternity and checked the direction. Then the inner fire of Qinglian burned and gathered into 5 meters long blue wings of fire. The wings vibrated, soared into the sky, and turned into a stream of light, quickly passing over the sea. The overall strength of the participating countries at the target location of this mission is not considered strong. Among the more than 170 participating countries of world government, it can only be regarded as above average. 3 days later, Yulo came to the kingdom of Godashang. At this time Yulo is high in the air above the palace. As early as when passing through the harbor, the Celestial Dragon's ship was discovered. Needless to say, it's quite luxurious. Observation hockey is delivered at fixed points, covering the entire palace. Why is there only one? Yulo was a little confused and muttered to himself. Judging from the information perceived, 3 celestial dragons came this time. A father, a brother and sister. What a whole family of 3. There is only one middle-aged celestial dragons in the palace now. The other 2 are causing trouble somewhere. After all, celestial dragons can't do any good. No matter what, I'll kill you first if you're in bad luck. Yulo smiled ferociously. Murderous intent flashed in his heart, and his figure fell downwards. There are many guards in the palace, obviously specially arranged to protect the celestial dragons. On the periphery are some spies and combatants from the CP organization. In terms of strength, they are much stronger than the palace guards. Compared to Yulo, it is far different. The palace occupies a very large area, and the place where the celestial dragons stay is in the center. The level of luxury is even more magnificent than the king's palace. It's enough to show how much the kings of these franchise countries lick the celestial dragons. Yulo was extremely fast, and in a flash he arrived in front of the palace where the celestial dragons lived. At this time, people from the CP organization discovered Yulo. Who are you? Don't you know it's forbidden to come near this place? Members of the CP organization quickly surrounded Yulo. The movement here also attracted the palace guards. Why, don't you recognize me? Yulo said with a playful smile. One sentence stirred up the memories of members of the CP organization. As an intelligence agent directly under the world government, the most basic ability is to know all the information about major pirates. You are Roxy. Members of the CP organization looked horrified, and all of them fainted before they could finish speaking. It wasn't just them. In the moment just now, Yulo's conquerors' hockey directly enveloped the palace, and those who couldn't bear it all fell down. Cleaning up the trash fish is one thing, but not having time to notify the marine is another. Yulo walked into the palace, and 2 white figures suddenly appeared in front of him. Wearing a white suit with a white cape draped behind his back. Cipher Pol Igus 0, the superior of CP1 CP9, the highest cipher pol, an official directly subordinate to the world's noble celestial dragons, known as the strongest shield of the celestial dragons. Well, what I said should be right. Yulo didn't stop and muttered something while approaching the 2 of them. Among the entire organization directly under the world government, only CP0 can make Yulo take notice. As for CP1 CP9, they are just collecting intelligence and will not become a reality. Rob Lucci, who is known as the strongest person in CP9 in the anime for 800 years. It really looks like a joke. You are the Rocks pirate, Yulo, with a bounty of 1.5 billion. What are you doing here? The faces of the 2 people in CP0 were gloomy, and their bodies were tense as if they were facing a powerful enemy. No one thought that Yulo, who had snatched the gold from the sky and became famous in one battle, would appear here at this moment. And this Yulo actually knows so many secrets. Oh, I'm here to kill the celestial dragons. Yulo came to the 2 of them and said nonchalantly. Don't even think about it. Go to hell. Upon hearing this, the 2 of them jumped up, covered armament hockey's attacks, and hit Yulo directly. Finger pistol, tempest kick. The 2 people from CP0 pointed and kicked, using all their strength. They cannot take it lightly when faced with the rumored monster Yulo. Bang! The 2 attacks froze, as if hitting an invisible wall. Boom! Immediately afterwards, a powerful impact burst out, knocking the two people away. Tisk, 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 that's all you have. It seems that in CP0, he is just a minion. Yulo walked straight over and flicked the Qinglian Earth Heart Fire in his hand. The two CP0 people who fell to the ground showed fear. Before he could even scream, he was burned into two piles of ashes. Yulo was not interested, he was too weak. After fighting Zephyr, Shiki and others, he couldn't be interested in this kind of strength at all. Deep inside the palace, it was very quiet. Yulo saw the celestial dragons lying on the ground. He looks middle-aged, dressed in luxurious clothes, and wears a bubble hood on his head. Haha, you are so weak. Yulo sneered at this and was stunned by Conqueror's haki. What's the difference between him and those trash fish? He still has the nerve to call himself a world noble. On the ground beside him, there was a beautiful woman who was covered in scars and had no breath left. Yulo noticed that he was wearing clothes belonging to the royal family. Very obviously, being sacrificed to the celestial dragons. Died by the celestial dragons. Yulo flicked his finger, and his weapon color was slightly exposed. Algernon Saint's bubble hood shattered. Ah! A scream sounded out, and the shock and pain caused Saint Algernon to wake up. What's going on? Where's my bubble hood? Damn it, this dirty air, I'm actually breathing slave air. After waking up, he roared loudly and almost strangled himself to death. How could noble celestial dragons breathe the air of slaves? If this was known to his fellow tribesmen, he would never be able to hold his head high again. Then you might as well stop breathing. Yulo's eyes were condensed, full of chill, and he spoke coldly. Celestial dragons are so disgusting. Ah! You untouchable. It was only then that Saint Algernon noticed Yulo. Anger suddenly went to his head, and he yelled crazily. Boom! Yulo directly fired a burst of energy. Before Algernon finished speaking, he was punched into the wall and spit out a large mouthful of blood. The pampered celestial dragons are simply vulnerable. Where are the CP0 people? What do you do for food? Come here quickly and kill this untouchable. Street. Algernon, who was stuck in the wall, showed a pained expression. But his attitude is still arrogant and domineering, and he wants to kill Yulo. A pariah with an open mouth, a pariah with a closed mouth, looking arrogant. Those two men in white have gone to hell. Even if you shout until your throat breaks, no one will come to save you. The sound of celestial dragons was really annoying, and Yulo couldn't help but pick his ears. Who are you? Who gave you the courage to kill my guards? You don't know I'm a celestial dragons. Yulo's words made him sober up. This man actually killed his guard, which was simply unforgivable. I am the one who robbed you of your heavenly gold. He's also the one who killed you. Yulo said with interest, slowly walking towards Algernon Saint. You actually want to kill me, I'm a celestial dragons. Do you want to be hunted down by Marine Admiral? If you want to live, hurry up and let me go. Saint Algernon looked at Yulo in shock, furious in his heart. This untouchable actually wanted to kill him. This is a naked insult from celestial dragons. But now he's moved out of the Marine Admiral. He must be able to overwhelm this untouchable. Wait until this pariah lets him go. He must torture this pariah to death. As expected of the celestial dragons, they can be so tough at a time like this. A bunch of idiots. Yulo was left speechless and started swearing. In this case, one is either really stupid or has some backbone. Obviously, celestial dragons prefers the former. Crack, crack, crack. Yulo came to Saint Algernon and slapped him in the face. Untouchable. Ah, you're dead. Ah, stop fighting. Please let me go and stop fighting. Saint Algernon, who had been fighting back, was beaten until he begged for mercy. His nose was bruised and his face was swollen, and his speech became slurred. A playful smile appeared on Yulo's face. It turns out that celestial dragons also beg for mercy. Where did your toughness go? Where are the treasures on this list? Yulo picked up a list full of various treasures. It should be the treasure that Saint Algernon came here to pay tribute to the celestial dragons. Although it is far from the gold in the sky, it still has a few good things. Still in the king's treasury. Saint Algernon was really frightened and answered honestly. Although he felt distressed about this, he wanted to live even more. Treasure house. Take me there. Yulo's eyes lit up and he said without any doubt. A treasure trove of franchised countries, this is great stuff. I'm afraid it's not much more than the gold in the sky. After all, it is a country's savings over many years. With such a huge amount of treasures, Yulo, who regarded money as dirt, couldn't help but feel moved. I have no idea. Holy Algernon's eyes were roving, his face was full of unwillingness, and he was trying to fool around. He came all the way to get these treasures. That's mine. How can I hand over the treasure I got? You'd better think carefully before answering. Yulo's eyes suddenly became cold. The inner fire of Qinglian on her right hand started to burn. Ah, so hot. The scorching heat instantly engulfed Algernon Saint. I suddenly felt dizzy, as if my body was about to melt. Saint Algernon couldn't even think about it if this fire burned his body. I'll take you there, I know where it is. Saint Algernon, terrified of death, completely succumbed. Come down you. Yulo threw Algernon Saint, who was stuck on the wall, to the ground. Saint Algernon looked sluggish and huddled up for a while before he was ready to stand up. Kneel down and lead the way. Suddenly, two chi energy shot out, directly breaking his calf. Ah! Saint Algernon screamed, the severe pain making him miserable. Can I just lead you? Why break my legs? He felt endless humiliation in his heart. When have celestial dragons ever suffered from these? At this moment, he wanted to die. Yulo followed behind, and Saint Algernon in front, crawling forward. Saint Algernon brought Yulo to the central palace. The treasure trove of the nation lies deep within the king's palace, he said shakily, fearing that he would continue to be tortured. Really? Yulo glanced coldly. Yes, I swear, I'm really here and I'm definitely not lying. Saint Algernon's hair stood on end and he lowered his head in panic. Now that his legs are disabled, he really doesn't dare to be clever anymore. Otherwise, the whole person will be ruined next time. Let's go. Yulo naturally saw that Saint Algernon was not lying. He unleashes observation haki throughout. All the movements in the entire palace can be seen at a glance. In the palace, there were many people lying everywhere. They were all the guards responsible for guarding this place, and they were knocked unconscious by Yulo's conquerors. Boom! Yulo came to the treasure house door and kicked the door open. The violent gesture frightened Saint Algernon's body to tremble. Yulo quickly took inventory, except for a large amount of treasure. There are also some good quality weapons and a few devil fruits. But unfortunately, they are all the fruits of zone. I guess all the good stuff was donated to celestial dragons. Yulo just stuffed everything into the inventory. This inventory is actually equivalent to system space. And it's one that Yulo can use at will. After plundering the treasure house, Yulo turned and left. Carrying the Algernon Saint, the celestial dragon's ship flew towards the harbor. From the mouth of Saint Algernon, the other two celestial dragons, his sons and daughters, disdainfully living in a palace full of slaves, he stayed on the ship, waiting for Saint Algernon to return and bring back their share of the treasure. After Yulo left the palace, someone gradually woke up. The streets outside the palace were deserted. To keep the people from angering the celestial dragons, the king drove out all the people. Yulo quickly approaches the celestial dragon's ship. Suddenly, a gunshot was heard. Ah, it hurts. Let go of Al. His voice was immature and lacked confidence, and he seemed young. You little slave, how dare you contradict the world's nobles? A young but vicious voice sounded, with a feminine edge. Yulo hears movement and observation haki senses it. I immediately understood the situation ahead. Haha, as expected of celestial dragons, they can cause trouble wherever they go. Yulo's eyes flashed with disgust. In the open space of the harbor, a boy sat on the ground with a very painful expression and tears in his eyes. The wound on the leg was a bullet wound, and blood gushed out like a spring. Did you see it? This is what happens if you dare to contradict the celestial dragons. You little bastard, did you hear that? Rosemary Palace's expression was ferocious, completely different from her appearance. He took 2 sudden steps forward, kicked the boy who was shot down, and stomped on his face. Ah, damn it, let go of Al. The injured boy's companion was furious, holding a worn-out tachi, and rushed over like crazy. But it's not that easy. As soon as the young man took 2 steps out, he was kicked out by a guard. Bang! It was like a cannonball flying out and falling hard to the ground. The young man held on to the sword in his hand and stood up with difficulty. Give. Let me. Let go. Al. While his body was shaking violently, he still slowly raised his sword. You are untouchables, and you are my slaves. Don't you want to save him? Come on. Rosemary shouted ferociously, raised her foot and stomped towards Al's head. She felt unprecedented excitement, and her expression became extremely distorted. She enjoys torturing slaves. The harder the slave struggles, the more excited she becomes. Ronnie. Looking at the fallen souls, Al felt death, and his fearful heart was filled with resentment. Although his body was squirming crazily, his injured leg just refused to obey. Al, the young man in the distance roared, and his entire pupils seemed to be gray. Just when Ruth Marie Palace's foot was about to fall. Buzz, buzz. 2 weak auras appeared and disappeared in just a few seconds. In an instant, Ruth Mary Saint stopped moving. She was a little dazed and confused, and she almost fainted in the past few seconds. Interesting. Yulo was slightly startled, surprised, and then a little surprised. Conqueror's hockey. There's no mistaking it, it's Conqueror's. Even if it is passively stimulated, the momentum is very weak. But Yulo's vision and color clearly perceived it. He actually met 2 young men with the appearance of a king, and there were 2 of them. Because the momentum was too weak, Rosemary Palace woke up, couldn't help but become angry, and was about to lift her foot and stomp down again. Bang! Screams sounded. Yulo released the invisible hockey, and Ruth Marie Palace was knocked away. He fell to the ground and curled up, wailing angrily and silently. Who? The face of the only CP0 guard changed drastically, and he was horrified by the sudden change. The celestial dragons were injured because of his low eyelids, which was his biggest oversight. Even if he kills the murderer, he will not get any good results. What's more, whether it can be killed or not is another matter. He turned on observation hockey and found no extra aura except for the people present. On the luxurious boat, Gerald Saint heard the sound and walked out quickly. How dare anyone harm the noble celestial dragons? CP0, what do you do for food? Seeing Ruth Marie Palace vomiting blood and falling to the ground, Gerald Saint rushed over angrily. Clatter, clatter, clatter. There was a sound of footsteps, and Yulo appeared in front of them in an instant. Ouch! He casually threw Saint Algernon in front of him. Lord Saint Algernon. CP0's guard kept his eyes wide open and was suddenly frightened. Isn't Lord Saint Algernon in the palace? How could it become such a miserable situation? I'm afraid I'm done for. CP0, save me quickly and kill this pariah. Saint Algernon grasped at straws and shouted hoarsely. In his eyes, Yulo is simply a devil. Disregard the noble celestial dragons. He even broke his legs. He was really afraid that he would be killed by Yulo the next moment. Let me go quickly, Saint Algernon, otherwise. Monster. Yulo. CP0 guard armament hockey covered, took an offensive stance, and immediately faced Yulo. Free the celestial dragons now and his fate might be better. This attention didn't matter, his pupils shrank sharply, and he recognized Yulo immediately. Why do you appear here? CP0's guard trembled slightly, and his tone was a little unsound. At this time, my heart was filled with waves. It turned out to be someone from Rock's Pirate. The palace's CP0 and subordinate organization personnel were probably all wiped out. Thinking of this, the CP0 guard gritted his teeth and rushed over. If the guarding celestial dragons are killed, they will be hunted by the world government. Compared to the rumored monster Yulo, the consequences of the failed escort mission made him even more distraught. You're really stubborn. Yulo's sense of sight and perception, and after the CP0 guard recognized him, he felt scared and wanted to retreat. In the end, he still chose to attack. His fear of world government is simply deep-rooted. Of course, to be more precise, it is the fear of the world's noble celestial dragons. Yulo punched lightly, and the rushing CP0 guard was directly shattered. Blood clots and pieces of flesh fell to the ground, landing right in front of Saint Algernon. Don't kill me. The bloody scene made him tremble physically and mentally. Cruel reality shattered his imaginary hopes. Why don't I kill you? You've always wanted to kill me. Yulo summoned the black knife and put the blade against Saint Algernon's face. The voice was as cold as the blade of a sword, making Saint Algernon feel like he was falling into hell. You despicable pirate, you not only injured me, but also killed my father. Who gave you the courage? We are the great and noble celestial dragons. Let go of my father quickly and we can spare your life. Gerald Saint helped Ruth Marie Pallas up, and the two of them held their heads high and shouted angrily. What's happening here? Al and Ronnie on the side looked a little confused, with question marks on their heads. Isn't the hostage in the hands of the benefactor who saved them the father of the bad guy? Why are these two bad guys still so arrogant and domineering? But he couldn't understand it at all, so Ronnie shook his head vigorously. He ran to Al, picked up Al and stepped aside. You two bastards, shut up. Saint Algernon's expression changed again and again, and he suddenly burst into anger and shouted. Please, you two bastards, shut your stinky mouths. Now he can see clearly that Yulo is a master who is not afraid of anything. The threat of moving out of Marine Admiral has no effect at all. The noble celestial dragons are nothing to them. As a person who is greedy for life and afraid of death, he doesn't want to die now. If you don't want him to die, come over and kneel down. Yulo's voice was cold and he looked at the two of them with cold eyes. Underneath his cold appearance, he was actually extremely speechless. Please figure out the situation. The guards are so pissed off, why are they still shouting here? It's true that a dog's father has no tiger's son, and his brains and energy are exactly the same. He is better than his master. Bold, you bitch. Originally, after Saint Algernon shouted angrily, both of them shut their mouths. But as soon as Yulo's words came out, Ruth Marie Pallas immediately went berserk. She felt this was an insult to her. Shut up, come here and kneel down. Algernon Saint immediately shouted angrily, interrupting Rosemary Pallas. He was shaking violently because just now, the blade pierced his skin. Father, you. Gerald Saint and Ruth Mary Pallas looked at Algernon Saint in shock. They did not expect that Saint Algernon would say such a thing. If they kneel down to lowly pirates, they will be deprived of their celestial dragon status. The two were extremely entangled for a while, not knowing what to do. But when they thought about not being able to make celestial dragons, the two decided on something. Pervert distorted thoughts began to arise in my mind. Saint Algernon, we are celestial dragons. If you want to kneel, he will kneel. Saint Algernon, you kneeling lowly pirate, you are not worthy of the celestial dragons. Gerald Saint and Ruth Marie Pallas had fierce eyes and severely distorted facial expressions. Ah. You two bitches, I'm yours. This made Saint Algernon furious and barked like a mad dog. It's worse than a beast. Yulo's body was filled with murderous intent. As he raised the knife, Algernon's head fell to the ground. Boom, boom, the head rolled to the feet of the two of them, and they collapsed to the ground in fright. Dead, he really killed. Gerald Saint and Ruth Marie Pallas had dull eyes and murmured in their mouths. Yulo slowly walked towards the two of them, who were frightened out of their wits. At this moment, the system prompt sound appeared. Ding! The mission was successfully checked in. Congratulations to host for receiving the reward, Conqueror's Entanglement. The task reward has been automatically given to the host. Conqueror's winding technique was integrated into Yulo's body and turned into muscle memory. Just kill one celestial dragons and the mission is complete. Yulo was surprised and immediately reacted. The mission only requires killing celestial dragons, and there is no stipulation on how many to kill. Immediately, I stopped thinking about it and was ready to try Conqueror's Entanglement. However, this was not over yet. Before he could feel it, the system's voice sounded again. Ding! Trigger mission check-in. The King's qualifications are 1 in a million. Please host recruit 2 teenagers to become crew members. The task is successfully checked in, and the system will issue rewards. After the words fell, the system disappeared. Yulo was stunned by the sudden surprise. This system is really a roundworm in his stomach. The boy who awakened Conqueror's hockey has 1 in a million talents and qualifications. Yulo will definitely not miss this kind of talent. Yulo thought, then threw 2 match ropes and tied up Gerald Saint and Ruth Mary Pallas. The temperature is under his control and will not burn the 2 celestial dragons to death. My benefactor, can I kill this female pervert with my own hands? Suddenly, Al, the boy who was shot in the leg, spoke up. Yes, Al is injured like this, and I want to be with Al. Ronnie, who was supporting Al, was startled, looked at Al who was covered in injuries, and showed a vicious expression. As soon as these words came out, Gerald Saint and Ruth Mary Pallas were so frightened that they broke out in cold sweat. Their lives were in Yulo's hands, and they could only pray in their hearts that Yulo would not agree. You two surprised me. However, she is a celestial dragon. Have you thought about the consequences? Yulo was a little surprised and did not answer directly. The idea that these two teenagers were going to kill the celestial dragons was outrageous. But, isn't this the kind of person he needs? He has talent and ideas, but his strength is too weak. You must be a pirate. My name is Al and his name is Ronnie. Both of us are orphans and have no worries. We'd like to come on board with you, if that's okay. Al and Ronnie were silent for a while, and finally made a bold decision. They also know some of the consequences of killing celestial dragons. I'm afraid that after Yulo leaves, the two of them will be wiped out. Despite this, I still want to kill the celestial dragons, otherwise it will be difficult to relieve the hatred in my heart. In their eyes, Yulo can kill celestial dragons at will. He must have the strength to compete with his enemies. So the two decided unanimously to join Yulo's ship, seeking refuge while continuing to grow stronger. Yes, I'll let you do it yourself. But it's still useful for the time being. If you want to kill it, you have to wait a month. Yulo smiled and nodded, and the young man took the initiative to speak, saving him from wasting his words. As for the two celestial dragons, a good idea suddenly occurred to him. I plan to discuss it with Rox after I go back. Even if Rox doesn't agree, it won't be too late to kill him when the time comes. Well, yes, we are willing to wait. Al and Ronnie nodded heavily without hesitation. After some thinking just now, joining Yulo's pirate ship is far more important than killing the celestial dragons. Even if they couldn't kill the celestial dragons with their own hands, the two of them would still get on the ship with Yulo. What's more, they can wait for just a month. Ha 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 ha. Al, Ronnie, you should start as a trainee crew member first. Yulo laughed loudly. The two crew members with king qualifications made him feel much better. Okay, boss. Ronnie helped Al and came to Yulo's side. The two of them responded in unison. Well, boss, that's a good title, ha 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 ha. Yulo touched his chin. It was the first time someone called him boss. It felt really good. The two slutty bosses shouted, the mission check-in should be completed. As soon as Yulo thought this, the system prompt sound appeared. Ding! The mission was successfully checked in. Congratulations to host for receiving the reward. All thunder breathing techniques have been solved, and the devil fruit has been strengthened once. The reward has been distributed, host can check it by himself. Yulo's eyes are shining, I'll give you a good system. The thunder breathing technique in Demon Slayer can be regarded as a combination of breathing and swordsmanship. The effect after using the breathing method is similar to the secret technique of improving strength. Only by fully mastering the breathing method can your strength be permanently improved. The most important thing is that the devil fruit enhancement is even more pervert. His green lotus earth core fire was strengthened by the Mara fruit. These two things came at the perfect time. If only every mission was this fast. Yulo showed a satisfied smile. The system was getting more and more reliable. Not only was the task completed quickly, but the reward was also what he wanted. Al and Ronnie, who have just been acquired, have good talents and qualifications, but their strength is too weak. There is no powerful devil fruit or a basic exercise method. Unexpectedly, all the rewards for a mission were revealed. Da, 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 da. At this moment, there was the sound of chaotic footsteps on the street. Is anyone awake? Yulo motioned for Al and Ronnie to step back, and he turned to face the street. A large wave of palace guards rushed over in a mighty manner. But it stopped dozens of meters in front of Yulo. The guards moved closer to both sides, clearing a path. You bold pirate, where is Lord Saint Algernon? A man in rich clothes walked out, shouting in panic and anger, followed by a muscular man. No, here you go. Yulo kicked Saint Algernon's head over. Ah, damn it, you actually killed Lord Algernon. The king looked at the head in front of him, and his mind went blank for a moment. It's over, the celestial dragons are dead. When he realized what he was doing, he was shocked, fell backwards, and murmured to himself. Damn pirate, it's just a step too late. The guard commander quickly supported the king, his face was extremely gloomy, and he was gnashing his teeth in anger. After waking up, he discovered that the celestial dragons were missing and immediately organized an escort to pursue them. The mentality of being lucky at first was now shattered. The celestial dragons are dead. How dare this pirate? It's over now, what should we do? This ferocious head caused the guards to panic. The celestial dragons under their protection were killed by pirates. All of them, including the king, were to blame. Maybe the sin will not lead to death, but it will still be punished. Thinking of this, people became distracted and stepped back unconsciously. If you don't want to be punished, cheer me up. I have already informed Marine. As long as Marine arrives, he will not be able to escape. Seeing this situation, the guard commander Ifley handed the king over to his subordinates to take care of him, and shouted with a gloomy face. He understood the reactions of the guards, so he must not let them retreat. Only if Marine arrives to catch the murderer will he not be punished. Ifley's words were a shot in the arm. I'm just trying to hold it off. First hope Marine will come soon. The guards visibly cheered up when they heard Marine was coming. Only Ivley, standing in front, stared at Yulo with a frown. What he said to the guard was half true and half false. It was true that Marine was coming, but if he wanted to hold this man back, Ivley's heart was beating. Conqueror's hockey stunned everyone in the palace. Although he doesn't have conquerors, he does have some information. This should be something only high-level conquerors can do. Conqueror's strength corresponds to its own strength. And he felt like he had seen Yulo somewhere. But under such circumstances, he was not allowed to be distracted. No matter who he is, every second he can delay is a second. Ifley's whole body was tense, ready at any time, and he muttered to himself. Marine, are you coming? Hearing Ivley's words, Yulo's eyes flashed, but he didn't feel surprised. Protecting the celestial dragons comes first among the Marine's mission principles. However, celestial dragons usually rarely have trouble, and Marine mainly targets pirates. And once something happens to the celestial dragons, naval headquarters will inevitably dispatch the admiral. Delaying time. I don't have time to waste with you. Yulo chuckled, a dark light flashing in his eyes. The momentum poured out, and black airflow appeared around the body. He released a burst of hockey that enveloped all of the guardsmen. These black air currents, are they high-level conquerors? Ifley suddenly felt pressure, as if facing a formidable enemy. So strong conquerors hockey. It feels so oppressive to release even a little bit. Wait, black airstream, high-level conquerors. Suddenly, Yulo's appearance overlapped with a figure in Ifley's mind. Monster Yulo. You are Yulo, a cadre of Rock's pirate. Ivley's eyes widened and he blurted out an exclamation. At this time, he recognized Yulo, but he didn't expect that he was a cadre of Rock's pirate. Ifley's expression was extremely ugly. What a waste of time. If the delay continues, the Shinigami will arrive before Marine can wait. When the guards heard this, their faces turned pale and they became panicked. Rock's pirate's reputation is more intimidating than Shinigami. Not to mention Yulo, the man who robbed the country of its heavenly gold. Ronnie, Al, let's go. Yulo's observation hockey sensed the emotions of Ivry and others. Knowing that they didn't dare to stop him anymore, unless they wanted to see Shinigami. Ronnie supported Al and followed Yulo obediently. Looking at the injured Al, Yulo frowned. You two, come here and kneel down. Yulo noticed Gerald Street and Ruth Mary Palace. The match ropes on the two men were transferred to their necks. Yulo's thoughts will kill them. The two people heard it just now. This person is a cadre of Rock's pirate. They were the ones who robbed the heavenly gold that was rightfully theirs. This is the overlord among pirates, and he is dedicated to confronting the world government. If the two of them disobey, they will definitely be brutally killed. Gerald Street and Ruth Mary Palace endured fear and humiliation. Kneeling obediently in front of Yulo, his forehead pressed against the ground. Ronnie, Al, you two ride on. Yulo pointed and said casually. Ah, Ronnie and Al were stunned, their mouths wide open, and they were at a loss. Boss, no, ride celestial dragons. Hurry up and let them carry you. Yulo repeated patiently. Hearing Yulo speak for the second time, Ronnie and Al reacted. Al, I'll help you up. Ronnie nodded solemnly and helped Al sit up. Ronnie then quickly mounted another celestial dragons as well. Gerald Saint and Ruth Marie Pallas were in tears and let Ronnie and Al sit on them. They had never suffered such torture before. The endless humiliation made their faces turn red. I thought it would be over when I knelt down, but ended up being used as a mount. They had always been riding others, but this was the first time they were being ridden by others. Let's go. Yulo took a step forward without looking back. Gerald Saint and Ruth Marie Pallas, carrying Ronnie and Al, follow Yulo. Seeing that the celestial dragons who were bullying them just now, have now become their mounts. This huge reversal made Ronnie and Al secretly happy. Suddenly, I felt that I dare not kill celestial dragons, but I dare not ride celestial dragons. Quote, quote. I flee and the guards at the rear were shocked and speechless. The aloof celestial dragons, kneeling grovelingly, serve as mounts for pirates. Incredibly, it was the first time in their lives that they had seen such a scene. In the horrified eyes of everyone, Yulo came to the celestial dragon's ship. Celestial dragon's ship is so luxurious, it's comparable to Newgate's Moby Dick. Ha 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 ha, yes, this ship belongs to me. Yulo looked at the giant ships moored in the harbor and couldn't help but exclaimed. Such a big ship is rare on the sea. What's more, it's the ship of the world's nobles, celestial dragons. The facilities and configurations above are all the most complete and advanced. Such a rare ship should be taken as one's own. Get aboard. Yulo waved his hand and felt very satisfied. After Yulo and others got on the boat, they found that there were still some people on the boat. Judging from his clothes, he should be a slave of celestial dragons. Stay on board in your original position for the time being. After half a month, everyone can leave. Yulo has no interest in these people. Not only does he have no strength, he also has no talent. But he needs these manpower now and keeps them temporarily. Later, send them away and let them regain their freedom. These people are afraid of Yulo and dare not say what they are thinking. As long as Yulo doesn't kill them, it doesn't matter if he obeys his orders. There was a roar. The huge ship left the harbor and sailed slowly toward the sea. With Yulo's departure, the atmosphere has eased. The pressure on the guards disappeared instantly. He collapsed directly to the ground, gasping for air. Oh, I'm afraid I might get into trouble this time. Ifli's chest rose and fell, and he looked at the sea with complicated eyes. This time 1 celestial dragons died, and 2 more were kidnapped by Yulo. World government and naval headquarters will never give up. Everyone in the guard, including the king, will be severely punished. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.